I'm calling this one home improvement, but actually it's shed improvement. I've been fixing up my shed to use for metalworking projects, and I just finished putting a ceiling in that's insulated. And I mainly did that to keep the heat out of the shed while I'm working in there. And to help with that as well, I want to put vents in the gables. The only problem is I couldn't find any suitable ones to go here, so I figured I can make my own. And to get started, I'm going to measure the angle that these need to be. And then I can transfer that angle to my table style workbench here that I'm using as a layout table. Basically what I want to do is make a full-size layout of the outer frame for this, and I'll use that as a guide to make the parts for it. Now to make the parts, I'm going to be using cedar fence boards. These are actually in my shed, drying for the past year, so they're well seasoned and they're not going to shrink up on me. And first I'm going to rip those down the middle and then cut them to 2.5 inches wide. And then, like I said, I can use what I've drawn on the table to lay out the parts that I need to cut out for this. I'm going to be building 4 of these, but I'm going to concentrate on the first one first, and then I can use those as a pattern for the other 3. Next, I want to get these outer frames put together, and I'm going to do that with biscuits in the joints. And the glue that I'm going to be using for this, of course, is polyurethane construction adhesive, which is waterproof. However, it does take some time to dry, but I've got other things to do in the meantime. This glue really doesn't need to be clamped. But I'm going to fire in some brads to hold the corners together, and then I'm going to put it out in the sun to speed up the drying. And that worked well because an hour later I'm ready to sand them smooth. Now obviously these are just vents for a shed, so I really don't need to sand it. But it only takes a couple of seconds and it makes them look a lot better. And while the glue was drying on those, I cut pieces to make the back frame, at least the top and the side. The one that goes on the bottom, plus the other louvers that fit in the vent, will be sloping up to 45 degrees, so I'll be cutting those next. And now it kind of gets a little bit tricky. I have to make a special jig that works on my bandsaw to make the cuts. And it starts with a strip that I'm going to clamp onto the bandsaw table, and the base of the jig just rides against that as I make the cut. Now that I've got all 4 vents put together, I can bring them outdoors and paint them. And of course I could do this with a brush, but it's a lot faster with a sprayer, especially trying to get in around the louvers. So I ended up putting on 4 coats and I left those to dry overnight. And then the next morning I got up early to start putting them in. It's going to be a hot day, so I want to get this out of the way first. And of course the first step is to mark out where I need to cut the hole. And to do that, I'm drawing a line across the bottom of the vent, and then I've cut a strip of wood 1.5 inches wide to use as a guide to mark the offset. and then I can take the jigsaw and cut out that triangular part. Now, of course, these are white, but I don't think I'm going to leave them that color. Standing back and looking at it, I think they'll look better if they're painted to match the wall color.